Even the girl who drowned here, her ghost has been seen wandering around doing what looks like she's picking flowers before she disappears. You know, and the other thing that, you know, here, I was looking for, when I was looking into the story of Dolly Cole, I was doing some research and found that, you know, there's quite a few coal cemeteries around, but I found one off Central Pike, and it was in the back of someone's property. Now, I know the law says I can't be stopped to go into a historic cemetery, but it's someone's property. I'm not just going to wander around. So I knocked on the door, and this younger guy came to the door. He was a real nice guy, and he looked at me like who the heck are you? Like I'm going to sell something to him or something. And I told him what I was doing. He goes, oh, hey, I just got done mowing all the grass down to deal with the ticks and everything. He goes, I'll take a walk with you. That sounds like a good idea. So he comes out, he's all jovial, he's a real nice guy, and he says, so who are you looking for, genealogy? I said, well, I'm looking for a woman named Dorothy Ellen Cole, and I don't think she exists. I think it's a mashup, but I want to exhaust the possibilities. He goes, yeah, there's a few Coles out there. So he helped me go around the cemetery. We couldn't find any Dorothy Ellen Cole whatsoever in the cemetery. And walking out, I just said to him, I said, yeah, I'm fascinated with your town. It's got a lot of great history to it. And he just goes, yeah, it's kind of a weird town, too. And I go, how do you mean by that? And he goes, whatever, just kind of weird. I said, why? Had something strange happen to you? And he goes, yeah, you wouldn't believe me. And I go, no, I'm pretty open-minded. Seriously. You know, I try to let him know, like, I'm dead serious. Like, what happened? He goes, well, you know on Ramtail Road, there's that spot they call the swimming pool? This is where people, this is when it was deeper, you swim, as you know, as a kid. And I go, oh yeah, I'm aware of it quite well. He goes, no, you're going to think I'm nuts. Like, he's getting nervous now. Like, you could see the emotion building up in him. And he was a big dude. Like, this guy could have taken me easily. And I said, no, seriously. I looked at him very sincere, and I said, what happened? He goes, well, there's really good fishing down there. And I went down there one summer, and it was still light out. It was getting late in the day, but he says, you know, in the summer, like even at 7:30, 7:45, there's still plenty of sunlight out. He goes, my friends and I, was two friends with me, we decided to cast one more time into the pool. And as we're standing there, he goes, we see the water like turning in a really weird way, and we're thinking, what is that, a bunch of fish like just under the water or something? Or a snapping turtle just came up out of the muck or something? Like their brains in seconds were trying to figure out what the heck they were looking at. And he looks at me dead serious, and he goes, the water just started to turn, and he said it looked like smoke, it kind of looked like milk, but this white mass just came up out of the center of the pool and took the vague form of a woman, hovered above the water, and then shot off into the woods. He said, I think I left fishing equipment behind, and I will never go back there again. And he goes, you probably think I'm a nut. Like, now he's like kind of upset that he didn't say. And I go, look, I wasn't honest with you. I'm a paranormal researcher, investigator. I'm trying to find the research on a ghost story here in town. You're not the only person who's had that experience. That pool is haunted. And I said, do you know about the factory? He goes, no. So he didn't even know about Ramtail. So I told him briefly the story about Ramtail. He's going, I am so glad I ran into you. You know how many years I've been holding that one in and keeping it to myself? I've met so many people that have come down here, and this is the strange thing. People think, oh, it's got to be a dark and stormy night. It's got to be the no.
Right.
The hauntings that I've heard have never been at night at this pool, except for one I'll get to in a moment. But people have seen it. It's usually in the month of July or August, and it's late in the day, like after 7, when it's still light out, and it's the same darn thing. It's this vague white apparition that comes up out of the water, floats above the pool, and then just moves away. Now, I was told one story about somebody dove off the bridge, and their friends thought they were clowning around. And someone was up here, a friend was up here looking down, and she was doing this. And she said, she swears, it looked like a woman wearing white was holding onto her friend's ankle. And then it disappeared, and the girl broke the water, terrified that she almost drowned.
Oh, really? Like she was being pulled under?
Being pulled under. But then again, drowning victims also get desperate and cling to their rescuers. So it may not have been malicious, it may have just been that fear trapped from that suicide. So myself, though, coming out here, before I get to my own personal encounter about things on this bridge that'll help explain it. I had a gentleman up at the Tavern on Main, another favorite haunted area of ours, up in Gloucester, this restaurant. Great food, tons of history, and it's haunted as all heck. And I had a gentleman say to me, you ever heard of Ramtail Road? And I go, oh yeah, I'm familiar with it. He goes, you know the bridge on it? I said, yeah. He goes, my daughter will never go down that road again. And I was like, really? He said, yeah, she was taking a shortcut down Ramtail Road. It's about 1:30 in the morning. And as she was approaching this bridge, as you can see, it's fairly narrow. She said there was a very strange older guy standing on the bridge. And she slowed down because she didn't want to clip him with a side view mirror or whatever. And as she got to it just before the bridge, he just disappears.
He's gone.
She said, Dad, I'll never go down that road again at night. I'll never go down there again at night. And I believe the story because several years later, matter of fact, we're only talking about 2 years ago now, myself and my friend and I, who heard the coughing noise that July, we're down here. And I know this sounds like a bunch of bunk, but I'm telling you, even I don't want to believe it. But we saw an extremely tall male apparition 3 times on that road, and it moved about. There was no moon out. It was just the ambient light of the starlight.
Right.
And there wasn't very many clouds. And we'd been down here for a while, so our eyes adjusted. But my friend Brian and I both jumped out of our shoes when the thing moved and came towards us. And later I was to bring us one of the psychics back to do a reading for a family member.
Right.
And we were up at the cemetery, and she starts talking about a very tall gentleman who's concerned about this property and its history, and he's protecting it. Is he the guy who slapped me off the side of the head?
Wow.
Is he the guy I saw down there? And I know, like, I'm a skeptic myself. Like, I don't believe everything comes down the path, and I'm my own worst critic. So I actually, like, inside kind of get split down the middle, and I'm like, you didn't really see that. And the other part of me's going, I saw that, and Brian saw it. So I feel I had some validation when that gal and then to have a family go, yes, we know who you're describing. That's a relative of ours. He was very tall. So I myself have seen somebody, and the sighting the girl had was in the 90s, and he passed away in 1999. So I didn't get the exact date, but I'm wondering if it was that member of the foster community who passed away, who loves this area. I'm wondering if that's who she saw, or it could have been someone else. I've been told there's been several accidental drownings down here because of the muck. I was told by one, she said, when we came down here, there was 2 things that our elders used to tell us when we came down to go swimming. One, watch out for the sucking muck. Never go down there alone. Watch the bottom, because it's like, it'll grab you like glue, and you can drown. As you know that for yourself.
By the grace of God, I'm still
exactly.
Here.
But the other thing they used to tell them, when you go down to the ram tail, you show respect down there to those people. So, I mean, when you have grandparents telling you something that serious, you know people sincerely believe that the folks at Ramtail is still here, and that we should be respectful of what they did in their history. And Brian and I, that night when we saw this apparition, before we saw the apparition, our attention was being greatly distracted. And this is November. Fireflies in November.
Right.
We watched balls of light flashing and dancing around in this woods, not like fireflies, like a ball that would move for several seconds with a tail off of it. We would see that weird rippling, like I said, that almost like jellyfish fabric moving through the air. And both of us were going, like quietly, going, look, like that, look, like that. And it went away for a while. And I'm standing around, I'm standing right where you are, Brian was here. And that's when I first noticed the apparition down there. And I said, no, your eyes are playing tricks on you. And I turned back a few minutes later, and it's still there. It looks like a guy standing by the side of the road. So I turned to my friend Brian and go, Brian, could you look to your right? He goes, yeah, the guy standing down the road, I've already seen him. I kid you not. That's when I started to get a little bit nervous. When the light activity started to pick up around here again. Look. And then it stopped. And for some reason, Brian and I talked about it later. We both, without saying a word to each other, thought the same thought. Hey, what about this situation over here? We turned, and he was closer to the bridge, and both of us were like, whoo! Like we both jumped. And we're like, whoa. And I kid you not optical illusion. It zigzagged back to the spot where we saw it, and then it was just gone. That's it, we were done. We were done. We don't know if someone was just checking us out or whatever, but we both said no. We didn't coax each other to believe what the other one saw. You know what I'm saying? It isn't like I fed his mind, he fed mine, and we wanted to believe we saw something. But I talked to our friend Pat, who's been in the area for a while. I said, Pat, is there any elemental energy down there? She goes, oh, there sure is. And as you know, I'm a big believer in the wee folk. I do believe they exist. And I think we were seeing what the Native Americans refer to as Taiwanka, these soul lights moving around the woods. But it was like they were checking us out. And again, they couldn't be fireflies. They just couldn't be, not November. It wasn't really, really cold, but we were bundled up and that, but it wasn't bitterly cold. But it's just strange phenomena, just really, really bizarre. I was down at the Ramtail ruins on the anniversary of Peleg's death. And ran into some kids down there.
Yeah.
And they were nice kids, really nice kids, knew their history. I was really impressed with it.
Right.
And I said, you guys ever see anything down here? And a kid says, yeah, one night we were down here, and he says, see, you know where the rest of the dam is on the other side of the river?
Yeah.
To the right of it, I saw a ball of light there, and then it just disappeared. I'd seen the same thing in the same spot. And I looked right at him, I said, I believe you, kid, because I saw it too. And they're like, oh my God, you saw it too. Your wife took the picture of the candlelight down at the old dairy farm?
Right.
I mean, that picture's awesome.
It was like a segmented
for-
light, and there
yeah,
was no
yeah.
natural light there.
Yeah, for your viewers, if you don't know,
Right.
Keith's wife took a photograph that years later I would duplicate accidentally. And other people have seen this flame light that looks like a lantern. Now, some people thought, gee, is it Peleg? No, there was a dairy farm out there. And when have we all seen it? After between 9 and 10. When you think about it, all our sightings, Tom D'Agostino's, mine, yours, have all been that second milking. That's the late milking.
Right.
And that flames with these kids saw the same thing. And when I asked them to describe where they saw it, it was the same spot where Sandra took her photograph, the same spot where my video camera caught that weird flame-like light. And it was in the same spot. But again, a lot of people have jumped to conclusions. It's Peleg. And jumping to that, why I believe it isn't Peleg. And I never felt it was Peleg. I always thought it had something to do with the dairy farm, because it was a very big dairy farm. With the girl who said, the psychic who said to me, you know, he knows you come down here and he wants his story straight. He goes, these fools come down here and they want us to entertain them. They think like this is like a game, like we're here to entertain them. They're so disrespectful. And he goes, they see the farmer with the lantern and they think it's me. It's not me. When it's me, I jingle the keys.
Really?
And I've talked to people who claim they have EVPs of metallic clank going around at the factory ruins. So I think they caught Peleg, not visually, obviously, but I think they caught the keys that were so important to him, that jingle, that metallic clanking sound.
Yes.
And I just found it so weird that, you know, this girl who knew nothing about this location goes, you know, they see the farmer with the lantern and they think it's me. It's not me. She doesn't even know the story. How, you know, if she knew ahead of time where it was taking her, yeah, she could have researched it to impress me.
Right.
But then the other odd thing is they were talking about Peleg, and both of them are doing this.
Really?
And they go, he injured his leg as a child, and it didn't set right. And he
the odd gait.
He walked oddly because of it. It went over my head, and I'm standing there recording them, interviewing them, and all of a sudden my brain goes, his leg didn't heal right as a kid, and he had an odd walk. I'm thinking the odd gait.
Yes.
The odd gait. And again, how would those girls know that? You know, one was from Blackstone, Mass. The other one was from Acushnet, Mass. They had no idea. I just, hey, let's just take a ride, you know? They had no idea. And they were being honest. Obviously, there's a river here. There was a sign that said Hopkins Mills. There must have been mills around. So they're like, you know, you don't have to be psychic to figure that out. So they were being honest with me about it. But how would they know about the leg? How would they know about the throat cutting? So I do believe this area is just full of folks that put so much blood, sweat, and tears into this location. And it was hard living. You know, nowadays in the 21st century, people just don't understand how hard it was to survive.
Right.
You know what I mean? People grew their own food, not because it was fun, but because you had to do it to survive.
Exactly.
Life
was very different.
You had chickens, you had goats and sheep, not because it was a fun pet. It was because you might have to kill the thing and salt it and, you know, and have meat for later. You know, you'd have to make jams and preserve, you know, fruits and things, you know, and vegetables, because
widely
you would
agricultural.
starve.
Yes, right.
You would starve to death. It's not like the state's going to come out with plow trucks and come rescue you.
Exactly.
You may freeze to death out here.
Exactly.
So to put so much energy and to have such a successful mill village, but then to have it end in such ugly, angry, you know, tragedy like that, and to just come to a screaming halt, it just seems to me all the ingredients are there to make this a haunted place. And of course, as you and I know, you can't throw a rock in this town without finding out about a ghost story. I'm still getting people to warm up to me to tell me, I'm the only person I tell this to, but I used to live in a house, you know, on this for such and such a road, and we used to have this activity.
Hope you don't think I'm crazy, but...
Exactly, but, you know, not too far from it, we have Tucker Hollow Road, which is not only haunted by ghosts, but apparently there is a supernatural monster on that road.
Tell us about that.
Oh, that is crazy. That one's crazy.
Tell us.
Yeah, not too far from where we're standing is Tucker Hollow Road. It's one of the old carriage roads. It basically weaves in and out of what's Situate and Foster now. So some houses are actually technically in Situate and some are in Foster, but there's very few houses along the road. It's still a dirt track, very much like it was. Now, there's been some murders and there's been some suicides and tragedies along that road. So I was talking to Pat Morgan about it, and she says, well, there's something out there in that woods that has nothing to do with ghosts. It's like, because we're talking about elementals.
Right.
She says it's definitely of elemental energy, but it's not a wee little thing.
Right.
And I said, really? She goes, matter of fact, over the years, I've had 2 hunters come to me and go, Pat, you're the only person I would ever tell this story to. I think I've seen a Bigfoot off Tucker Hollow Road. And Pat has explained to him it's not a squatch, because these guys only got a glimpse of something large and hairy moving through the woods. And they got out of there. These are 2 separate guys telling her 2 separate stories, so they're not feeding off one another.
Right.
And Pat explains to me, my granddaughter, who I've met, and her granddaughter is a remarkable psychic. That young lady blew me out of the water with her abilities. Very nice gal, too. Much like Pat and her family. They're good people. And when she was a very little girl, she was out playing in the woods. And Pat, as you know, lives not too far from Tucker Hollow Road. She said, Andrew, now she was in her early 20s at the time, she says, as an adult, if this thing hadn't turned around and looked at me, I'd be telling you I saw a Bigfoot. But because it turned and looked at me, I know it wasn't a Bigfoot. Because it had a bird's beak, a large, like crow's beak off it.
Yes.
It was big and hairy, humanoid, but it had this large beak. Now, the same gal that I took here, picked up on Peleg Walker and all that, we had the guts to walk down on the 30th of October, going into the 31st, and walk the length of Tucker Hollow Road, cameras rolling. And I just said, anything you pick up, that gal hit on every story I've ever told about, been told about Tucker Hollow Road. We're walking along, and I had headphones on through my camera, and she goes, do you hear that like bird noise? She goes, no birds come out at night. Are you hearing that through your headphones? And I'm going, I had a real nice microphone.
Yes.
And I said, no, Steph, I'm not hearing anything. We'd walk along, she's going, come on, you don't hear that like cawing sound? And I'm like, no. She goes, there's something stalking us down this road. I'm not talking about a real animal. I'm talking about something not good. As you know, in Tucker Hollow Road, there's an old carriageway that leads off. It goes down to a very old cemetery. Well, I wanted to go down there with her at night to shoot her. This girl started shaking and almost crying, saying, I don't want to go down there. Please, I don't. And as we were loading up one of the cameras, she said, 3 Native American men came walking up the road and stopped and said, you whites are being very foolish. You need to turn around and keep going the way you were going. You don't know what you're dealing with. And so I took her word for it. You know, she was scared. And she wasn't making that up to make me go the other way, because I know a lot of Indian artifacts have been found off Tucker Hollow Road.
Right.
So, next morning, I get a phone call from the first thing in the morning. She says, Andrew, you know how you take me to places and I have dreams, and then I call you back the next day? She goes, in my dream, I saw the thing making the bird noise. Really? It looked like a Bigfoot with a bird's beak. Wow. How would she know that story? How would she know? So there, apparently, it's some kind of elemental creature. Now, I was told by a local, she said, we had Native Americans that lived around here that were 7 foot tall. 7 foot tall guys.
I've heard of that.
But
yes.
There was also another tribe of people out here that were less than 3 foot tall that only came out at night.
Wow.
And Pat told me that many, many, many years ago, they found an ancient stone igloo in the woods, purposely made. And when they broke it open, they found a little spear with a spearhead on it out of rock, and the wood was so old that it crumbled when the guy touched it. So it was ancient. I mean, you could say ancient.
Right.
So then, long after I hear that factoid, I'm told that there was supposedly a race of little people that only came out at night, Pugwudgies.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And there's, you know, I hear stories like that in Connecticut. Oh yeah, there was a race of little people that lived in this section, but they only came out at night. It's like, yeah, if they're less than 3 foot tall, it ain't a human being. I mean, you know, it's a Pugwudgie. Or as the the Cherokee talk about them down the Carolinas, the little people. But there was the little people, and there were the Pugwudgies. So they were the almost human-like little people, but then there was the ugly little monster-like people.
Right.
And supposedly those 2 people didn't get along. That's
almost like troll-like.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother legend to get into sometime. But yeah, I mean, every time I dig into it, and people get used to me around here, and they're like, oh yeah, that's Art Lake's kid. You know, I can talk to him. You know, my father being a local celebrity and all that, it helps opening people up. But the stories that people have shared with me throughout Foster, not just here at the Ramtail, Foster, Scituate, and Gloucester, and Eastern Connecticut. Why do people go all the way down to Waverly Hills. You know, I hear about these people like, oh, they saved up their money and they're going down to, you know, this famous haunted place and taking a plane. I'm like, why? You live in southern New England. Why do you have to leave southern New England and look for great ghosts? They're all throughout here. In Foster. And I mean, and what's so funny about Foster is, you know, being related to H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes.
As a young infant, on Johnson Road, the house unfortunately is burned to the ground, but he was there as an infant. And on Moosup Valley Road, they have a famous ghost that walks up and down that road. And what did H.P. Lovecraft say? This place haunted me in my infancy. That was a comment he made about Foster.
Right, exactly.
So even the master of modern horror had a feel for this town.
Right. And he, of course, had relatives that came from
Exactly,
here.
exactly. But hey, the Admiral Perry came from Foster.
Wow.
I mean, the history to this little section of Rhode Island is like all Rhode Island is. That's sad. People don't realize how amazing this little state is.
I am so glad this place has not been developed.
Well, because we have the reservoir owns much of this property, the reservoir company.
Yeah.
So a lot of it will be, you know, preserved.
That's great.
But the history alone, never mind the ghosts, but as you and I know, we've got it in our blood. We just can't get it out of us.
Right.
And I love coming to Foster.
Yes, I do too. I love this entire area. It's just so historic, so scenic.
It is.
And it will always, hopefully, by the grace of God, be this way.
Yeah, let's hope the you know, the people who want real estate don't win out. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm
they
saying.
don't have the appreciation, the love for it that we do.
You know, they want to sell the land and take off to Florida and retire. They just don't know what goes on here. But I recommend to anybody, if anybody's watching this online and never been to New England, come to Rhode Island, you know, because Keith and I, you know, we can show you around. Believe me, you can't swing a dead cat, as they say, without hitting a haunted house.
Right, exactly. Well, you yourself, you give tours here, right?
I give tours, haunted Rhode Island tours in September and October and early November while the weather's still good. It's a 5 to 6 hour tour, and this is one of the locations. I mean, you have to take people here. You have to. But yeah, it starts in Exeter and ends up at my house in Greenville, and the stories never stop. And I don't mean to brag, but everybody who's taken it said it's the coolest ghost tour they've ever taken.
You yourself are a wonderful, wonderful storyteller.
Thank you. And I've got my dad's voice, so I'm a good speaker. And
when you were on 30 Odd Minutes, it was a wonderful show, and you know, and of course, you've done vocalizations for many documentaries.
That's right. And
Bridgewater Triangle.
I got folks talking me into, and I think I should get off my lazy butt and do it. But doing a podcast and do some storytelling.
I think you should.
Yeah,
I would very much encourage that.
I've been flattered that people have heard me on the radio and so on and so forth, and like, who the heck is this guy? I've never heard him. I can listen to him all night, and I'm like, my ego's like, wow, no kidding, really? You know, I'm that good of a storyteller. So, yeah, before I drop dead, you know, I'm 55 now. Before I leave this earth, I feel I should share these stories.
No, you don't look a day over 35.
Thank you. But I would like to share these stories. So I'd like to think that some 14-year-old, after you and I are gone, is going to be reading your book or my book and go, look, I'm telling you, this guy Johnson, this guy Lake said this.
Right.
We're not nuts.
Yeah.
What
we're making history right now.
Yeah.
We're preserving the history.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's nice to know that when you and I are gone, and maybe we'll haunt down here every once in a while. Slap someone upside the head, or run behind the tree and make someone run out of the woods or something. That would be fun.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much.
Always great hanging out with you, Keith,
I mean,
really.
We could do this for 5 hours.
And tell the wife I said howdy, you know, and all that.
I certainly will, and I hope everyone will join us on our next segment as we hold our end of the season celebration and gathering for New England Anomalies Research. You are there. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope you'll join us again very soon. God bless.
My grandson.
Didn't see it, and his headlights hit it. So he was like, oh, the driver saw it.
Oh, wow.
Just the driver saw it, and then about 45 minutes later, a kid who had nothing to do with them. And when it moved, it had to anchor with its feet and its hands before.
11.5 pounds of baby, and then everything else in there at the same time.
Grabbing the stones in the wall. And then it would like pull itself. So the way it's locomotion.
At Women and Infants in Providence. She's going to have this one there. Oh, really? What do you do?
I think it's something that stepped out of.
Oh. they were probably
When I saw John and Kate, they said that we're invited anytime, and the guy was going
Awesome,
upstairs.
that's awesome, he's gone.
Oh my
No,
God.
we gotta go back.
3 days, no food. I'm hilarious. I'm like, actually,
No, he wants to shoot something for Ghosts of N.E.A.R, so we'll take him along so you can do a segment.
Exactly.
Because the Sam West House is definitely a great place. So we'll bring a member of your gang along as well as Russ.
We're on
We'll-
camera.
We'll get you something.
So let me
Come on over.
What a shot, huh? Two buddies, two brothers.
Two enormous guys.
Yeah, you look cold in here.
Oh, did I ever tell you what the white thing was in your picture from Rantail? No, I never did. No. Remember that weird white thing we couldn't figure out what it was on the other side of the water?
Yes.
I'm looking at your pictures and I'm like, that can't be paranormal. There's got to be an explanation. I jumped in my car, said, Mom, I'll be right back. I flew all the way out to Ramtail. It's a sock hanging in the tree.
I know.
Howdy.
Andrew, where are you headed after this?
I'm heading up to the Huckamuck Swamp.
And what's going on there?
John Horrigan is conducting a tour with Chris Pittman of the Huckamuck Swamp, and we are going to go to the locations where documented sightings of cryptid animals and other paranormal events such as UFOs, Indian spirits, etc. have taken place.
Nathan, you going along?
Nathan, come on over here and tell them about the Huckamuck.
It's a swamp
Very big swamp.
Part of the Bridgewater Triangle?
Exactly.
on the Easton and Rainham line.
Which was, of course, framed by
Yeah, I think it is.
Coleman there.
Yep, Warren Coleman,
Warren
yes.
Coleman, and he will be calling in tonight during our investigation, along with our friend Christopher Balzano.
Great.
And what else I wanted to add? Christopher Balzano has been recently expanding the Bridgewater Triangle in his investigations.
Really?
Yeah, so Little Rhode Island is now becoming more and more part of the triangle.
Excellent.
Yes,
What do you expect to meet up with tonight?
probably rain. Rain, mosquitoes, and ticks.
All right.
But never having explored the Huckamuck Swamp, to be able to go in with these experts, I'm pretty happy about it. Be able to see these spots and not guess, be able to actually see them. There goes Russ underneath the camera with a hot dog and a hamburger.
We wish you good luck tonight.
Thanks, and if we don't come back, remember us all.
We've got it on footage.
I'm like,
Reverse effect on it. Was it a new tube?
she had 2 words. She was like, walking around like that.
Thanks so much, bud. Gotta get going.
Hello, Ray Dualaby. How are you?
Enjoy that hot dog.
See you again.
Take care, bud.
Nice meeting you.
Julie, high school, college,
Yep,
marriage,
doing cameras.
kids.
I must get our host on film.
Divorce. God help me.
We're still making the same.
Gonna make today. You know, it was bad. It was pretty bad.
It doesn't have the Indian burn thing down.
I'll put my glasses on.
No.
Got a little kind of goo on it.
Why does it taste
Got a goo on my glasses. Where'd that come
No,
from?
but I'm thinking maybe I'm moving the acting.
Somebody sneezed.
I think so. That's exactly what it looks like.
Richard, the founder
Sneeze
of
on my
the
glasses?
feast.
Did I? I don't know if that's sneezed. No.